Unofficial, it doesn't have a home. Here's your host, from In Hindsight, Nathan Heitz. From Steelers Nation Australia, Mark Davison. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
G'day, guys. Welcome back to the Unofficial Steelers podcast and Steelers Nation Australia. I'm here with my good mate, Daniel. Daniel, what's going on, mate? Sorry, man. I slept in today, so I was a bit all over the shop.
It's all good, man. It's been a good day, man. I'm excited. I'm excited for tomorrow. It's Ravens week. It's rivalry week. I'm looking forward to this matchup. It's another opportunity for this team to show that they're taking steps in the right direction.
Right. First of all, if you want to give yourself a shout out to on your channel, what you did with your video, because I did wake up. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but I did see it is the Ratbirds versus the Pigeons. Is that correct?
Yeah, but it's going to be the Ratbirds versus the Pigeons. It was just a little preview show. We talked about this upcoming matchup, some of the things and tendencies of the Baltimore Ravens to expect, things of that nature. It was fun. Go check it out on State of the Steelers once this is over.
And also, too, another quick shout out for BTSC. You did another podcast, right? It's another one I need to listen to as well. Is there a similar theme on that one there?
That one's actually called So You're Saying There's a Chance.
There's a chance.
So, it talks about the basically the chances of the Pittsburgh Steelers doing something. Long story short, I'm not trying to look too far ahead into the playoff picture until after this game. I want to see this game happen first. But with everything going on and the teams, things lining up, there's a possibility here that the Steelers can make a push.
Definitely. We talked about last Unofficial Steelers podcast where if they win, if 9 games go in our direction, but first of all, focusing on this week, it's got to be the Browns need to win, the Steelers need to win. We would love to see the Jets lose and the Patriots lose and the Chargers lose too. And also the Raiders. What were your thoughts on the Raiders game and Baker Mayfield coming back? Did you see that game there?
I saw bits and pieces of it. The Raiders game was one that I was kind of worried about when it came to the remaining portion of the schedule. Not to be any disrespectful to any other team or the Baltimore Ravens this upcoming matchup, but they're without Lamar Jackson and they're a little bit limited offensively themselves. They've been struggling. They've been eking out wins with just crazy how they've been winning some of these games. They should have lost last week against the Broncos, but
I reckon so.
I don't see them as the class of the North right now. I think the Bengals are ahead of them when it comes to the way they're playing currently. So the Raider game was one that I was a little bit, kind of worried about. Just typically the Pittsburgh Steelers seem to struggle against the Raiders, but seeing them drop one to Baker, who had I think like a walkthrough of practice and that was it.
Yeah,
I'm not so worried.
It's pretty exciting, man. I think the one thing for the Raiders is maybe Josh Jacobs in the run game can probably be an issue. Other than that, I'm not too worried about that game. I think it's going to be an amazing day. And that was the game you gave away your tickets, right? Wasn't it? I think.
Right. Yeah, we gave away two tickets to Mr. Ilman. He is a subscriber. We do that yearly, guys. So next year we'll be giving away a couple more tickets. So make sure you subscribe to Stay the Steelers.
Big time. So we have J Devil in here. We have JJ52 in here. Yuli's on his 11th hour of the 17-hour shift. Mate, make sure you're drinking some water, mate. That's insane or something. Or sit down for a little bit. Don't work too hard, man. In my last few years working at the bar, I got away with so much because I worked so hard. I worked so hard in my job for 2 or 3 years. Then once you know your place and your hierarchy, honestly, you can get away with so much, no matter where you work. Now, where are we? George here too, and Steelers fan. Can't wait for some game day food. What do you have for game day food? What are you making your lovely wife?
I believe we got some pulled pork coming our way. Yeah, some pulled pork sandwiches, man. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Rightio, and we have Claude in here too, and who else did I miss? I think that's pretty much everyone. Boom As Soon is in here. I think the Cooter's in here. That's everyone. Rightio. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start talking about maybe the offense taking on the Ravens' defense? What do you think about that? Like, this could be one of the hardest matchups, really, for Kenny Pickett and the offense, right?
I agree. How concerned are you with Deontay Johnson possibly being limited in this game? The entire week he's been either in or limited in practice with a hip injury. I know that George Pickens was quite animated about getting the ball this past game. I would, assume that would mean, the squeaky wheel getting the oil type of thing, that George Pickens is going to be highlighted. But, are you concerned that Deontay Johnson may not play?
Not overly. I'm actually one of the guys that I'm not really on the train of firing DJ that much. I thought in last week's game, I know he had a few drops and he had a few drops throughout his career, but I thought he had a pretty positive game to a certain degree, that he was getting better. In the things that we saw the last few games where he was running backwards, running sideways, I thought he was running forwards. In some places, he did get 60 yards, but with his health, I think, well, he's a part of the team, right? We need him to be there, because otherwise, then if Kenny can't go to him, then who does Kenny have? Kenny has to go to Muth. Kenny has to go to George Pickens, has to go to Steven Sims as well. Now, Steven Sims been getting more targets too, but there was the one catch that last week he was out of bounds. So you can't catch a ball when you're out of bounds. You want to see a healthy team and a healthy DJ, but I'm not like on the fire DJ train. I know some people really want to get rid of him. I still think he's a pretty good receiver. Gets so much separation. Just something in his head, he can't catch the ball in certain scenarios. But I haven't actually, I don't know if you have, but I haven't looked at the stats with other receivers dropping the ball. I don't know if it's if it's a Steelers black and gold goggles lens saying, "Oh, DJ's terrible because he's dropping it," or around the league, it's just natural to do that.
I mean, the thing is, there's a lot more context than just dropping the ball. He has over 100 targets and not put the ball in the end zone. One or two of those drops would have been for scores. I know one hit his hands in the end zone and he dropped, and another was on third down where he caught it and had enough room for the yards after catch to get it into the end zone. He had a couple of other balls that, another couple of that he didn't catch. A few of them were from Mitch Trubisky that, if he catches a couple of those balls against the Jets, we may not be looking at Kenny Pickett at this point. Right. And so, with that being said, he's dropped. It's been the inconsistency in the weighty moments. I mean, you look at the drop fumble that he had last week that, fortunately for us, was overturned, but that was in a high-pressured moment in the wrong part of the field. Mm-hmm. And so,
that was a fumble, right? It was definitely a fumble. I thought it was.
The eye test says it was a fumble, but it was one of those situations where it's by the rule book. It's not. I think back to the Cowboys and Green Bay Packers and Dez Bryant going to the ground and fumbling. That looked like he was extending. However, he was going down, and by the rules of the book, it was not a catch. You know what I'm saying? Now, by the eye test, that was. And so in this situation, I feel it was kind of the same where, by the rules of the book, he had 2 feet down, didn't have enough time to make that football move. Mm-hmm. But just by watching it, it looked like he had possession and was bringing the ball in. And so
what do you think is going through Deontay Johnson's mind, if you can, I don't know, have some review or process? Like how because that one big catch where he had a lot of time to run was like he ran without the football, like secure the catch, then run. What's going through his mind? What are the reasons for the drops? Is he got just that bad? Is he that bad of a player that like he's doing that, or is he not thinking?
I mean, and it's not so much that the drops are consistent. It's just that they're consistent during certain portions of the game, because there's stats out there that show, oh, he has 3% drop rate, 2% drop rate, this, that, and a third. But when you watch the game and you're watching those weighty moments, it's not just been an issue this year. It's been an ongoing issue for him since, in my opinion, his rookie year towards the end of the season when they were targeting him a little bit more. In the beginning of that season, Moncrief and Juju Smith-Schuster were probably the primary targets. And then towards the second half of that season is when it started to pick up. And as the targets picked up, so were the drops and the drive killers. I mean, it's also the false starts. It's also so many things that are going wrong with him. It's definitely something mental when you're looking at that aspect. And I wasn't the biggest fan of extending him this offseason. I thought he was a guy that the Steelers could potentially move on from. I was surprised about the Claypool move. I'm not saying that Claypool's better than Deontay or vice versa. I just thought that given the contract situation and how much longer you had Claypool, potentially you had him this year and next year, and on a rookie deal, that you may be able to get, let go of Deontay in a trade and not have to pay that $36 million.
Big time. Because to me, it's like he makes the hard catches sometimes look easy, right? But the easy catches, like the ones where he's running after the football, makes a drop. And you're right, that the weighty downs of like that fumble was definitely a fumble. Like we got away with one there. In my opinion, I think the Falcons have every right to say, "Oh my goodness," right? Game-changing play. Pickens comes off. He's frustrated. So yeah, if he's not ready to play, then who's going to fill in? You think, or who's going to get more snaps?
I mean, it's probably going to be Steven Sims. It's probably going to be Steven Sims. I think George Pickens is going to have to pick it up a little bit. Pat Freiermuth might be playing a little bit more in the slot, so you might see a guy like Connor Hayward take a few more snaps as well on the inside and play a little bit heavier. I'm also anticipating, and when you look at this team, the Baltimore Ravens, they like to blitz. They like to do that all-out blitz, go everybody come in. Fortunately for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they are Kenny Pickett's a guy that can handle the blitz fairly well. So I'm encouraged to see that matchup. But at the same token, I feel that the Steelers are going to have to go bigger anyways. And so just to kind of protect Kenny a little bit, give him that extra half second or so to find the right guy and the right read. And so with that being said, this matchup might be a good one. Not to say not to have him, but it's not going to hurt him, hurt the Steelers, so to speak.
What are your thoughts on like the role of the role of Connor Hayward? Really implementing himself into the offense. You got the TD last week. He's been getting there a few times. Do they target him more or use him more in the game plan?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. The thing about Connor Hayward is nothing against him. I just feel that there's better options. If you're looking at a better passing option, I think you got Pat Freiermuth. If you're looking at a better blocking option, you have Zach Gentry. And so to me, it's like, it's not that he's bad or anything. He's just, you have better options than him. I like what he's doing. He does bring an excellent, different part of his game, though. He's like a large running back. In fact, that's what he played in Michigan. In my opinion, I think he's a good guy. He's a valid guy. He's got good hands. Catching that ball where it was placed, that wasn't an easy pass. It was a little bit high in a way. And so I think he's doing good, and he's going to be doing well when his number is called. I just feel like blocking, you have Gentry, passing, you have Muth. Perhaps you'll see him more if Deontay Johnson can't play.
Yeah, so far with Connor Hayward, he's 8 for 9. So the 9 passes going his direction, he's caught 8. What are your thoughts on it? We'll go through some of them, mostly offense too, because it's a very intriguing game to me that if DJ is out, or even just the progression of the offense. What about Miles Boykin coming back on the action too? Can he help out this team?
Oh, certainly. I think that Miles Boykin does not just on the offensive side, but on the special teams, covering kicks and things of that nature. He's an ace when it comes to that. But yeah, going down the field and catching the ball, I think Miles Boykin was a guy that the Steelers were high on coming into going into the draft, and Baltimore Ravens, got to him before the Steelers did. Claypool came out on a couple of podcasts earlier this season after Boykin was picked up, and he said that Tomlin would ask him about Boykin and things of that nature, and it just seemed like he was always on the Steelers' radar, and for good purpose. I think this is a guy who you look at what he did with Baltimore, it wasn't very much. And, was that all on him? Could it also have been due to the limitations of the passing offense in Baltimore? It could be twofold there. And so with that being said, I think that he could definitely is going to have an opportunity to show what he has this week, especially if DJ can't come forward.
Big time. So another receiver too. We'll go through most of the receivers. I'm not going to list Oshesky because I think if we can maybe agree, Oshesky's not really part of this offense, right?
The jet sweep, but that's something that we may not want to see.
Yeah, I don't think against the Ravens. I think they're gonna play too physical for that to happen. But what about George Pickens with the whole being frustrated? I get one little bit of a scare saying, well, if he's frustrated, does that mean they're going to target him on purpose, and then the Ravens are going to game plan for that or whatever? And then if I don't want to see Kenny throw the ball because he has to. That makes sense to George, but at the same time, George does need to get the football. So, what are your thoughts about getting George the ball more?
I mean, I think George is a guy, in my opinion, that I said that he's not a 50-50 guy. He's a 75-25 guy. I think if you throw it up to him, he's coming down with it 3 out of 4 times.
Right.
He's a passionate guy. He wants the ball. Antonio Brown was double covered quite a bit, and he still got the ball, and he still made dynamic things with the ball. And so, if you're looking at Deontay Johnson being potentially out or limited during this game, I can anticipate coverage going towards George Pickens. It's going to allow for some one-on-one matchups or some favorable matchups with the remaining portion of the team or the receiving catchers of the team. But I think you still need to target him. You need to keep the defense honest and make sure that they stay on him. But I think it could be a good thing to get George Pickens involved. I think that if the Steelers get aggressive and want to push the ball down the field, he's going to come up with it more often than not. And I think this could lead to more points on the board for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And let's hope so. If we can get over 20, I think we have a chance to win, right? And keep the Ravens below 20 or 17 or whatever. What are your thoughts on the offensive line too? This team's pretty much been together. We're I still can't believe, Daniel, mate, we're 5 games away from the end of the season, really, right? It's gone that fast. It always goes really fast this time of year, Christmas. But this offensive line's been playing together pretty much the whole season, right? I'm pretty sure they've started the whole season together, here and there. So, what are your thoughts on them? They've definitely they've improved from what you're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, the offense in total has improved this entire year, but it starts with the guys up front. The offensive line has improved, and I think that they've built their chemistry and they've grown as a collective unit this entire season. Now, Najee Harris has also grown with them. He's learning their strengths, their weaknesses, where the cutbacks are, things of that nature. And in my opinion, we're seeing that growth start to, the fruit of their loom, so to speak. We're seeing their work come together, their chemistry coming together, and we're seeing it translate on the field. Najee Harris has had some pretty good games. He hasn't hit over 100 yards rushing yet, but I think he definitely does it at least once or twice this season. But as a collective unit rushing the ball as an offense as a whole, man, they've been doing a fantastic job. I think they're starting to find their identity, and that's something that the Steelers really haven't had in a long time, to be honest with you. And so, getting an identity, establishing a running game, and taking control and allowing the defense to not be extremely exhausted due to the amount of plays that they're on the field, it's going to go a long way for this team.
Is there anyone on the Ravens defense that will upset the apple cart in this offense's progression to put points on the board and make it feel like we are the second half Steelers and 3 points? You know what I'm saying? They've been pretty good, playing very well that made no sense. They've been playing very well in the first half, but second half they're slow starters. But I feel like this is going to be a game where it might be a 16-13 game. It might be a 13-10 game, depending who gets a field goal, right? And also, Chris Boswell's back. Did you hear about Chris Boswell being back?
I heard that they opened up his 21-day window. Did they activate him?
Yeah, they activated him today. So they let go of Matthew Wright today, and Chris Boswell's been activated to the roster. So it looks like he's going to go. First of all, shout out to Matthew Wright for doing a great job kicking. That guy needs to find a job somewhere. That's just the nature of the beast, though. Like he feels in. He was auditioning for other teams. Now the Wizards back.
But I think Matthew Wright did a fantastic job. But you think he has an NFL leg, like an NFL starter capable leg? I felt that those balls weren't.
He was making 45s and near 50. I think he did miss a few in the first game, but what I'm saying is he was still pretty clutch in moments that helped us out win games, right? He did get 4 field goals against the Falcons, which helped us win the game. Now that is because their offense was stalling too. But I feel like in the realm of all the NFL thing, it's like, okay, thanks for your time, see ya. But another team will find him somehow. I don't know. I don't look around at other kickers and other teams, but it seems to be those guys when they get the chance to like that, they audition for other teams. So could be next year. It could be even the XFL or the USFL. Like he'll be somewhere because he showed what he could do.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I just thought that the way he kicked the ball it took forever to get there. It seemed like it was dying every time. But he made it. He made it, and he kissed a couple of them in off the field goal post.
That's right. Was he did 2 of those on the post?
Yeah, he did 2 off the post in back-to-back games, and so it's that second one against the Falcons. That one I didn't think was going to make it in, and then it just bounced in. I was
is this a game where it is Justin Tucker versus Chris Boswell, which are probably the 1 and 2 of the league? The NFL, it's going to be a kicking game where we just get to the 50 and have a go.
I think there's a good possibility of that. When you look at this rivalry, you got to throw records, players, all those things out the window. This team, this rivalry matchup is won by, each individual game has been won by less than 1 touchdown majority of the time, right? And a lot of times it's been by 3 points. And so, and that includes times where, like in 2020, where the Ravens were under strict protocol rules and ended up playing, with some pretty, backups across the board. And that game also was only won by less than a score. And so, in my opinion, this is a game that's probably going to end in the same manner. I think there's an opportunity for the Steelers to advance and to really show up, but I don't take it against them if they don't, because of the team, because it's a division game, and because these teams know each other so well.
Yeah, well, I asked you guys a question. Did I ask you and Nathan the question? I think it was. Or did I ask someone else? I can't remember which podcast I was on about how many games. No, I didn't. I didn't ask you. I asked Mackenzie and Pittsburgh Owen. Oh my Lord, different channel. I'll ask you the question then. How many wins have they had since? How many Ravens losses have they had since 2016?
How many Ravens losses?
Yeah, since 2016. How many losses?
Oh man, I don't know. Like in total, or against the Steelers?
Against the Steelers.
Oh, probably like how many losses have they had against the Steelers?
Yeah.
Well, they haven't won since 2019. And so that's what I think 6 right there, or 4. I'll say that they have 8 losses.
The Ravens have had 8 losses against the Steelers.
Yeah.
Wow, that'd be awesome. No, it's only been 4. So since 2016, so I brought this up on the Pittsburgh Steelers Syndicate. I forgot where I brought it up actually. Since 2016.
Hey, well, that means I'm right.
Oh, what did I say?
You said how many losses have the Ravens had since? And I said,
I see. This is a problem of me waking up like dead set half an hour ago.
I was like, wait a minute, I'm right. If the Steelers have won 8, I said that the Baltimore Ravens have lost to the Steelers 8 times.
So I should have said the other way around. My apologies. You are right. See, this is what I should do my work at nighttime, but no one in America would be awake. But if I did my podcast at 8 p.m., you guys would be sleeping. All right. Anyway, so it's to me like it's a close matchup, right? But the one thing that stands out is the Steelers have snuck away in these 3-point games. They've won 8 since 2016, and the Ravens have lost 4. But in total, in the last what's that? For 6 years, the points have been very similar. 261 against 263, and average is exactly the same. So it comes down to, and we know this from their history anyway, but the Steelers have a bit of an edge, a tiny bit of an edge. They've been sneaking away with these games, with the field goals, with whatever it is, right? But that to me is like you know what? It's still a rivalry game. It's like still 50-50, But the one big number to me is the Steelers have stuck away with 8 versus 4, right? And we are on a 4-game win streak. Do you think the players care about the win streak, or are they just going to go in there and try and win?
Well, here's the other thing, though, that's not in there. Out of those 8 wins, how many came because of Ben Roethlisberger? And out of those 4 wins that the Ravens had, how many were against non-Roethlisberger teams?
Mate, I haven't got that much room on the body. I've got that room on the page.
No, I get it. The thing is, we don't have Ben Roethlisberger. And, I know in 2019 when, the Ravens won the last time, it was the Duck and Mason show. And so, those were without Ben. So, Ben plays a big role into all these things, man. He's a franchise guy. So I am a little bit concerned, but looking at this team and their insufficiencies, especially at the quarterback position, they're going to be playing more than likely Tyler Huntley. I think the Steelers will have their number in this game, and I think that the defense has played well against a Baltimore offense for several years, including even in 2019, where Duck and Mason almost, if Juju doesn't fumble that ball in overtime, that's probably going to be a win for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, so from memory, I think Robert Griffin III got one victory over Duck in 2019, I think it was. Lamar Jackson got a victory in there too. I think Joe Flacco might have had the other 2. I think he might have had the other 2. So, but I just wanted to bring that up because I think it is, 50-50 game here and there, but we're sneaking away with the win at the very end. And it's going to come down to if it plays the same way, physical football. It's one of the best matches in football, really, right? Like I don't hate the Ravens. I don't know about you, but I kind of it's a hate respect. Whereas I despise the Bengals. The Browns are the Browns, right? I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, the Ravens, sorry, are a team that I really dislike. I've been a fan for a long time, and so I've watched this rivalry since the Baltimore Ravens became the Ravens. And so Ravens have been a team that always been tough matchups, hard nosed, going back to Ray Lewis and Suggs and you're looking at Hines Ward on our side and Troy Polamalu and some of the great matchups that the Steelers have had in the playoffs. I would anticipate that if the Steelers would have lost some of those, and probably the hatred would be tripled or significantly higher. But, the Steelers won a lot of those games, especially in the playoffs. But with that being said, I rank, if I don't want to lose to the Ravens, probably if I were to list them in order as far as my hatred for the teams in the division, it would be Ravens 1, Bengals 2, Browns 3. Right. What about yourself?
Mine's Bengals, Ravens, probably Browns. Because Browns is the team that are just there.
Yeah,
they're just we do play them. They're playing some good football now, but they're just there. They don't seem to do anything. They might go on a run, and we need their help this year. But something's always going on with them. There's always drama with the Watson thing, or there's something else going on. There's just always something going on with them. With the Manziel money hands. I don't know. There's always seems to be, and Ben took care of them too. But to me now, it's the Joe Shiesty. I can't stand Joe Burr. And my mate, Matty Peverill always says, well, if he was your quarterback, you'd love him. I probably would, but he's not. So to me, he's home alone, and I'm the the 2 robbers trying to chase him. Here's the thing. Do you reckon Derek Carr looks like who's the guy? The other Home Alone robber? The tall one? Do you remember him? Merv?
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah, now that you mention it, there could be a resemblance there.
They look exactly the same. All right, let's move into the defense. What about the defense? What excites you about this game? Who's going to step up? I did a video today talking about Alex Highsmith. I think Highsmith's going to have a big game, and I hope he does. What are your thoughts on who's going to be the impact player to get us the win versus Tyler Huntley and crew?
Well, man, it's going to be tough, man. It's going to have to be coming from our middle linebackers because this is the team that likes to run the ball. And so we're going to need disciplined football coming from the middle linebackers. I'm looking at Miles Jack as having an impact game. And then on the back end, maybe perhaps Minkah Fitzpatrick, another week post, away from his surgery, from his appendectomy. So that's going to get him another week, healthier. I'm probably leaning towards Miles Jack having a big game in this one. I think we're going to need him to. If he doesn't, then it could be a long day for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Who's going to chase down Tyler Huntley and keep him in check too? Because I think he's actually not a better quarterback than Lamar, but he's got, I think, a better arm. But, the offense goes around Lamar Jackson, so it's going to be entirely different. Who's going to chase down Huntley?
I think it's probably going to be, you're going to have a spy with one of the middle linebackers that are going to be watching him, whether that's Miles Jack or Devin Bush. Devin Bush has shown some speed. He's gotten some of that speed back, so maybe he's a guy that can stay with him. Devin Bush isn't the biggest of guys, and so neither is Lamar Jackson. So maybe that matchup will do well. However, they're going to go. Tyler Huntley likes to throw the ball to Andrews, and so we're going to need somebody covering him very well. And it's going to be. I'm thinking Miles Jack might be taking on that role, covering him, but don't be surprised if they end up pulling out that 3 safety set and we have either DeMonte Casey or Terrell Edmonds out there on him.
That's what I was going to say next. That was going to be my next point. What are your thoughts about this 3 safety set, or getting, Cameron Sutton involved again, coming down from the edge, or Arthur Millette coming down from the edge? What are your thoughts on those kind of plays in the secondary, making some big plays? I feel like they've been playing some really good football recently, in these disguises too.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity if the Steelers can score some points and force the Ravens to try to throw the ball on them. That's probably the best bet. I would still try to lean towards throwing a heavier look in the early on, just because of the amount of times this team runs the ball. I don't think that you're going to put the ball in Huntley's hand more often than you would in Lamar Jackson's hand. And Lamar is already, limited as it is. And so I anticipate it being even more limited. And so in order to make the Ravens uncomfortable and put them in a position that they don't want to be, the Steelers are going to have to put some points on the board and put some touchdowns and not field goals.
Right, because the Ravens kind of run that heavy look, don't they? They like 3 tight end set, or the fullback gets in there too. And I believe even the fullback can catch. I'm not sure. What do you know the fullback's name is before I look it up? I think he can catch as well.
The fullback.
Patrick Ricard, that's the guy. Yeah, I think he can catch too. So they go more of a heavy. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tight ends. They've only got like 3 or 5 receivers. Besides, Mark Andrews, who else do you think is a threat on their offense for our defense to deal with?
Gus Edwards is a guy that is, he's a stubborn guy to get a hold of. Like, he just gets those yards, man. Passing wise, they're looking at Duvernay and Deshaun Jackson. That's probably their threats, but don't be surprised. And I always see it. There's always a trick play involved when you play the Baltimore Ravens. They do either a receiver pass, screen pass, or reverse of some kind. There's always a trick play, fake punt, things of that nature. Wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that. Last week against the Broncos, Duvernay threw an interception trying to knock in one of those trick plays. And so we got to just play physical football, but we also have to play disciplined football and not get out of our gaps and containments, because this is a team that can exploit those type of things.
So it says here, I saw this story this morning. J.K. Dobbins set to return as Ravens waive Mike Davis. What are your thoughts on J.K. Dobbins? He's coming back apparently after a knee injury, so he might be ready for the game.
I mean, look at Bush last year. When he was coming back on his ACL injury, it seems that J.K. is probably dealing with his a little bit more serious than Bush. His first game back, rust being there, things of that nature, not really being in stadium or in live action where somebody's hitting you. That matchup doesn't worry me at this game. Now, as he gets healthy and progresses, and the Steelers play the Ravens again at the end of the season, that can change. But in this game, I think the main focus is probably going to be on Gus Edwards and Tyler Huntley and their run action pass plays.
Because it seems like they got a really weird roster. I should try and investigate this more. They've got 5 tight ends, 4 running backs, and 1 fullback plus the quarterback. And it seems to be that's their most of their personnel. Of course, Mark Andrews, right? He's a guy that burns us completely, right? there's a guy who's like a one-on-one guy, is it going to be Terrell Edmonds versus Mark Andrews or someone like that to take him out of the equation, or do you need more than one guy? He's a big fella too. He's one of the best players on their team.
I don't think you're gonna double team Mark Andrews, especially if you can get somebody on him that can cover. DeMonte Casey's a big guy with speed and physical dude, so I wouldn't mind putting him on Mark Andrews. I think he can neutralize him. This team doesn't scare me passing wise. The thing about this team is they're a team that will focus on the run, and when you look at what the Falcons were able to do last week in the second half, TJ Watt, he's been injured. He's been dealing with some ribs. You can see that it's affecting his bend around the edge and his rush around the side. He's still a fantastic player. He's still better than most, but you can definitely tell that he's hurting out there.
Big time. So also, what are your thoughts too on I don't know where I really stand on this. I looked at his stats the other day, but I haven't seen him do too many splash plays or big plays. But Malik Reed filling in for Watt when he goes out, it seems like he's almost non-existent in there.
He hasn't been. He's been very disappointing, in my opinion.
And he led with the Broncos with a lot of sacks too before he left. He had like 14, 15. And I think he's one.
Yeah, I mean, the scheme has a lot to do with it, and personnel. When you have Von Miller and Chubb on the defensive line with you, that attention goes to that direction. You know what I'm saying? So he's in probably a lot of favorable matchups. It probably didn't help that TJ Watt has been out and injured this entire year, so they've been able to neutralize him. Now he's also been on the injury report with a back. He's been limited, so
right.
He may not be a guy that's going to see a lot of snaps this upcoming weekend as well.
Well, going from that, Alex Mahoney says with the success Falcons had with the running game, which they did, will the Steelers have major problems with the run? And I kind of I've been watching recently. I don't think the teams have been burning us over the top, but they have been running through the middle quite a bit. So can we stop them running the football, or not? Not 10 yards, but under 100, or what doesn't really affect us?
It's possible, man, but I think that you want to score points so that way you get them out of what they want to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's going to be the best scenario, in my opinion. You have a defense that's kind of beat up, and so they might be able to go out there early on in this game and be dominant. And if the offense can take advantage of those dominant moments and then get the Baltimore Ravens out of their comfort zone, and then that's probably your best formula for success here. But if they don't put touchdowns up and they're putting field goals or 3 and outs, then this could be a long game. And the longer this game goes where it's close and the Baltimore Ravens are continuing to run, the more effective they're going to be, just because of, a running team gets stronger as the game goes on.
We've got Pittsburgh Owen in the house, our UK mate from the mother country, right? Best possible scenario is what plays even his presence puts teams off. That's true. I agree with that. Dropson is scratched. Not too sure who that is. I don't know. That's one of Owen's favorite players. And we can target Muth and Pickens. Yeah, so let's go back to offense too. I know we're going around the shop, but it's this season's so fun, man, because Muth has been a guy that's really stepped up, right? He's slow. I think he's like 3rd or 4th in tight end yards this year. Can he be a presence in this game that can really, Kenny Pickett and him can put those points on the board, and we aren't settling for field goals. We're getting TDs. It's going to be a big jump, I think. One field goal in the second half last week. This team does need TDs, right? Can Muth help that equation?
Oh, I think so. Muth has been a guy known to be able to catch the ball away from his body with his hands. Also, like I said before, the Baltimore Ravens have a tendency of doing a lot of blitzes and heavy rush. Your tight end on a hot route behind that is going to be a key security blanket for Kenny Pickett, and one that I think the Steelers should go to early and often. Muth is a guy also that has great hands in the red zone. I think we need to target him more in the red zone. Perhaps we put some more touchdowns on the board if we do so. Definitely a guy that we need to hit and target more. But yeah, he's turning into a star in front of our eyes, in my opinion. He's becoming one of the top tier tight ends in the game. And if the Steelers can just get him the ball in those key weighted moments, I think he's going to show what he's able to do, and because and live up to the potential that we know he has.
Here's one for you. What's a player, and you can choose any side of the football, you can choose teams or whatever. Who's a player that no one's talking about that you're excited to say, actually, this guy might do something in this game. He might be a standout and like a real impactful player. Like, I'm not saying TJ Watt, I'm saying someone that no one talks about. Offensive line, defensive line, could be anyone. Who do you think that you think like is under the radar completely? And you're like, this guy's going to show up.
Jaylen Warren. Everybody
Right.
seems to kind of forgotten him a little bit.
Yeah, we have a bit.
He's been dealing with a hamstring injury, and his play's been limited. It's another week that he's coming back. I think he does a fantastic job in pass block and picking up the blitz, things of that nature. And when you have a team that's blitz heavy like the Ravens, you want somebody that's not going to miss or make the wrong decisions in those key moments of picking up the blitz. So you have that aspect. I think he's shifty. I think, when healthy, he's the guy that can really carry and took the rock down the field in lieu or for rest of Najee Harris. And so I think Jaylen Warren's a guy that could have a big game that people kind of seem to have forgotten since his hamstring injury and Najee got his groove back, so to speak.
Did he play? He didn't play last week, did he, Warren? Did he play last
week? He did. Yeah, he did. I think he had one rush, and that was it. Something like that.
Right.
It wasn't
what about
very much.
McFarland? Is he back on the squad now? I can't remember if he's back on the
squad.
Yeah,
he's back on practice squad. And with what Benny Snell did, he's going to stay there.
Right. So he's back on the squad. Snell's there. So Snell and Warren and Najee Harris, right? My guy would be what Pittsburgh Owen brings up too. He says Sims should be targeted more than DJ. I'm kind of waiting for the punt return from Sims or a big play on offense.
Sims had a big drop too, though.
On the returns?
Well, he had the drop on the return, but he also had that one drop on the pass from Kenny Pickett that was overturned in the first drive. I think it was overlooked
was that when he was out of bounds?
No, down the seam, straight up. Pickett hit him and right on the money. Got him right in his hands. It was a big play. The Steelers rushed down there to snap the ball. Falcons review that play, end up winning and overturning that play, and it gets turned over because the ball hit the ground. So Sims had a drop too. It was right in his hands. It was a tight window throw for Kenny Pickett, but I think the throw was significantly more difficult than the catch.
I do remember that now. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he caught it going to the ground, and as he was going to the ground, he dropped it. So it wasn't something like it wasn't like the defender broke up the pass, deflected the pass, or hit him as he was catching the ball. No, he dropped it going down. So,
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
It is what it is.
Because he almost lost that fumble on the punt return.
Yeah, and that's kind of something that he's known for. Prior to being a Pittsburgh Steeler out in Washington, he was known for putting the ball on the turf. And so, I like what he's able to do in the return game. I like what he's able to do to make people miss. I'm not too certain if I like him catching the ball down the field yet.
Owen says that Sims is better than Johnson. I'd rather play. You know what, guys, we don't always have to compare players to other players in the team. I don't know why we always do that. That's just my take, really. We always compare. They're on the same damn team. Oh, we don't need to compare players always. Johnson's better. Claypool's better than this guy. Look, stop that. I'd rather play Mark than Dropson. Now, to the second point. Like I can play. I've got good hand-eye coordination. You make it sound like I'm not a good person. You throw me anything and I'll catch it.
But can you separate? Can you separate?
I don't need to. I've got size like George Pickens, mate. You throw me anything around me, and maybe my friends know this. I can catch it, man. Like when I'm playing pickleball or whatever, people are like, "Are you ready to catch?" I'm like, "No, I'm always ready." Like I'm bang, here it is. Like my hand-eye is like a cat. But yeah, I don't know. We always seem to compare players to the same players in the team. Like, of course, if Deontay's not playing the best, and Sims needs to play better. But I think it doesn't always need to be a comparison of those players, right? Individually, they need to get better. But like I said, Owen is not a fan of Deontay and wants him out. Like you said before, like there could be a possibility that they should have got rid of him. But here's the thing, though, like, do they actually get rid of Deontay Johnson, or he's just going to stick around?
Gosh, I hope so. I'm not trying to be negative or anything, but Uh, oh man, you know what, man? I'll be honest with you. There's been so many weighted drops and things of that nature. I once put out there. Man, I don't even know if I should say it because I probably get a lot of hate. I get a lot of hate for some of my bad takes. I put out there that Deontay Johnson is what you get when you order Justin Jefferson off of Wish, and so it's a guy that he's just not there. You know what I mean? I don't see him as a number one. I don't see him as a number two. I see him as potentially a number three. I think that if you were to go out and draft Addison, for instance, in college, I think that immediately increases the wide receiver room because you have somebody to play complementary football across the field from George Pickens. When you have somebody who's dropping the ball on third down in those type of weighted situations, then you tend to then focus more into that one player that you do have, in George Pickens, you double, triple team him. If you had somebody who was able to catch the ball a little bit more consistently during that time, then they have to play a little bit more honest, and that's going to give George, Muth, and everybody else a greater opportunity to do their part. At the end of the day, he just needs to do his portion of the job, not to copy the damn Patriots, but do your job. Don't do more than what you have to. Catch the ball, watch the ball go into your hands and turn upfield. If you get 1 yard after the catch or 15, great, but move forward, watch the ball get into your hand and secure the ball. I mean, it's just so many times where there's so many mistakes, and it's in the biggest of situations. It's on third down. It's in the red zone. It's on when you're backed up in your own side of the field and you do a drop fumble. It's in the fourth quarter when you're only up by 4. You know what I'm saying? Those things, it's frustrating, and it's come to a point where this young man has been a part of this team since 2019.
2019, I think so.
And I think 2019 was his best year. I mean, as far as he caught balls down the field, he showed promise. I think he did a little bit better his second season as far as the stats go, but that was because I think the Steelers were trying to turn him into Antonio Brown. They were force feeding him the ball. They had so many targets towards him. And I think once he started to drop the ball, that started to deal with his, maybe confidence. And, that's where we're at today. But it is what it is. I just think that if you get you put a better receiver out there, one that can do the routine plays routinely, especially in those weighted situations that doesn't get tight in those heavy situations, not to copy too much of Mike Tomlin. I think that you end up having a more dynamic offense in this scenario, and a team that's putting up points. You can't get 100 targets and not put the football in the end zone. That is poor, by all means. It really is.
I just think, though, like, what's the reality, though, that Steelers actually go that direction and maybe trade him just to another team? Do you think it's a genuine reality where another team will pick him up, or there'll be a trade value for that?
Maybe. I mean, you look at what he's done in his body of work as far as the amount of targets, the catches that he's had, and you look at it from a statistical standpoint, probably. I mean, somebody gave us a second round for Claypool, so I'm sure somebody will give us something for it. I mean, I've been saying it for a while. It seems like the NFL has been overpaying for receivers, and you want to sell when sell while it's hot, and buy when it's low, so to speak. And you see what we got for Chase Claypool, which is starting to look like a top 40 pick, man. I mean, something in the top 10 of that.
Yeah, the Bears
draft.
keep losing. They keep losing. So as long as the Bears keep losing, and of course Claypool's a part of that equation too. I just find like look, I'm either way. Like I'm not down on DJ being the worst Steeler ever or the worst receiver. I still think he does some good things. Of course, he does need to work on his catches and the weighty downs, as you say, or Mike Tomlin would say too. But if they were to move on from him too, I just don't know if the Steelers would do that, right? I don't know if the Steelers would go and move Deontay from the equation and say, well, here's some draft picks. But it could be a possibility that a lot of teams around the NFL need guys.
I
like
mean,
Deontay
even if we got rid of him for the cap space, $18 million, and you draft another receiver, you can do a lot with $18 million. Based on what they're paying their cornerbacks. Look at this. You get rid of Deontay, you get rid of Ahkello Witherspoon. and you get rid of even Levi Wallace, you get a cornerback and a receiver in the draft to go along with Cam Sutton, and you're saving yourself somewhere around, well, you have 18 on one side, 16 with the combination of the two of Akilo and Levi Wallace. So that's what, like $34 million. You know, you can get something real. You can get a really good CB1. You can get a middle linebacker. That is a position the Steelers are going to need. Tremaine Edmonds is a guy that's going to be a free agent this upcoming year. And that would look nice, you know, Tremaine Edmonds standing next to Miles Jack, in my opinion.
But yeah, it could be a point where the Steelers do maybe move on and give like Deontay Johnson a new team. I think that could be a possibility where, and like you said, the cap space too would release a lot, right? Because he's getting the big coin over the duration. And maybe Kenny Pickett does go. Is it Addison? His college teammate, right? And he might go find Addison in the draft. So that could happen if he falls our direction. For me, though, like we're getting pretty long in the tooth, guys, so we will start to end the video, but it's been a good discussion, mostly around the offense and DJ, because, like, yeah, he is getting paid the big bucks and he needs to make the big plays, and he's not doing that, so that needs to start going his direction. But will the Steelers move on from him? Does Kenny, Kenny seems to target him enough, like over 100 targets, right? He's getting him, but he's not getting the catches.
But his targets have gone down. His targets, a lot of them came with Mitch Trubisky there. And as the season has gone through, his targets has gone down. And I've been saying it. I was like, I've been calling it out. I was like, is that somebody's lost confidence in him? Because under Matt Canada, with Ben Roethlisberger as quarterback and Mitch Trubisky as quarterback, two different quarterbacks, Deontay Johnson was the primary target. And he was force-fed the ball a lot. Since Pickett has taken over, he has not been. Now, is that because the quarterback doesn't like him, or is that because the offensive coordinator doesn't want to, I don't know, maybe lose the confidence of their quarterback by throwing it to a receiver who has shaky hands at certain, during certain points of the game?
So I'll end on this point for the Deontay Johnson topic, right? What does he need to do to change the mind of him staying as a Steeler? Does he need to go out there and catch the football and get 70 yards, TD, stuff like that, and be the impact player and really just turn it around? Is that the easy solution?
I mean, I think it's a situation where if you look at him, he didn't put himself in a hole with just one drop or one game where he had drops. I don't think one game where he does well is going to change the mindset of the fan base. I think it has to be something that is grown over time. I think there's a sour taste in a lot of the fan base mouth when they talk about Deontay Johnson because of, it was out there. Not very many people wanted to extend him this year. There wasn't very many that wanted to. They did. It seemed like a great deal at the time based on the production that you got over the last few years, but that production isn't coming forth right now. And so it leads you to believe, was that production because of, the franchise quarterback? And, without Ben Roethlisberger, you're just, it's always been that question. Are these receivers great because the Steelers do good at drafting, or are they great because we had a franchise quarterback? None of these receivers, I think only Emmanuel Sanders is the only receiver who's left the Pittsburgh Steelers and done something. Juju Smith-Schuster is doing something now, but he's got Patrick Mahomes. So it's not like he went to a subpar team with a team that has a less of a quarterback or less, talent. He probably went, honestly, to a team that has a higher dynamic offense and a better quarterback going into Ben's last portion of his career. And so, with that being said, you're really starting to see some of these players shine. And when you look at players like George Pickens, who, whether it's Mason Rudolph throwing in the ball in preseason, or if it's Mitch Trubisky who's throwing in the ball, or Kenny Pickett who's throwing the ball, he's made some fantastic plays and some fantastic catches. And that leads me to believe that that's a guy who's a game changer. And that's the guy in that dynamic that's who's elevating the players around him. Prior to this, it was Ben Roethlisberger, and he's a Hall of Fame quarterback for it. He's elevating the players around him, especially the receivers, because he's the one getting the ball to them. Without him, it looks worse. Now you have one receiver that's kind of creeping up through the rising up to the top, so to speak. And in my opinion, that's probably the best receiver that we have on our team.
Big time. We're going to see if the Steelers are going to utilize George Pickens more. We're going to see if Deontay Johnson can get back to some winning ways and just basically get out of his own head, in my opinion. I think he can break off the routes, and then next minute he's just dropping footballs left, right, and center. I still believe that he can, but we'll see what can happen. But I'm not opposed to if they would have traded him in the offseason as well, or what do they do with him? Like you said, the receiving game, receivers come out of nowhere, right? The Steelers have always got good receivers. To me, it's going to come back off the run game to really see if we can win this game. But what are your final thoughts? Steelers versus Ravens. And guys, in the comments below, put down predictions for the game and the scores. But what are your final thoughts and score for this game? Because I'm really pumped up now. This is one.
Well, I think that the Ravens are coming into this game a little bit limping offensively. They haven't been who they've been in the past offensively as far as putting points on the board. I think this is a favorable matchup for the Steelers. I think the Steelers are in the right trajectory, heading in the right trajectory. I think that if the Steelers highlight George Pickens, that they're going to be putting some points on this board. You know, I said earlier this week on the Big Brosco show for Behind the Steel Curtain, I put out my prediction at like 16-12 or something like that. But after thinking about this game and thinking that the Steelers are going to target George Pickens, I think he does something with the ball. And so I'm saying the Steelers are going to win this game 24-12.
24-12. That's exciting.
24-12. Yes, sir.
Man, I actually I can't even remember what I did. I can't remember what I said. I think I said like 31-13 on Steelers touchdown under. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to stick with a big game. 31-13. Somehow we get some points near the end and we close it out. But it's always going to be real close. That won't happen at all. Probably not. We have Sean Manahan. He says Pigeon 23, Ratbird 16. The Pigeons are for our side. That would be that would be like, hopefully it's fun. If it's Steelers 9, Ravens 3, I hope it's a fun game. Like, not like a snooze fest where Kenny can't find it. I want to see a defense on defense kind of game. Not two quarterbacks really, being awful. But I don't mind those kind of games too. I like the defense playing well. So Britsburg Owens says 2016. That'd be a fun game too. Maybe a few TDs, maybe one to Pickens, maybe one to Muth. Brian Brown says Steelers win 2-0. That'd be insane. That'd be insane if that ever happened. We get a safety maybe in the third quarter, 5 minutes to go, after another big press punt down to the 1 yard line. No teams can move anything. The only type of scores we see that when was a game was Steelers versus Miami, right? In that rain game, we won like 3-0 in the hurricane.
Yeah, that
game.
was
that was awesome.
There was 2 hurricane games that I remember in Miami as well. Ben's first start and then one a couple years later.
Right. Because it was, I think, it was like one of the mud games, and they kicked the field goal with 25 yards out or something, and that was where the punt went up in the air, went right down into the ground, and then won 3-0. That was fun. I think Joey Porter was playing back then, wasn't he, for the Steelers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was Peasy was on the team. Hey, there's a good chance his son might be on our team next year. So
Joey Porter, the cornerback, right?
Yeah, the cornerback.
Yeah,
yes,
okay. Would Steelers obviously still have done that in the look at Hayward, right? Connor Hayward, they got his brother. Do you think they would go and do that? They bring in a good cornerback, bring in some bloodlines to the Steelers, and really,
it's written on the wall, bro. Like Tomlin loves his legacy players. If they have an uncle in the team, or an uncle that played in the NFL or something, they're on the team. That's just the way it is.
Well, I guess even Cody White's his dad's working for the organization, right?
Yep.
So I'm trying to think of some other ones too. I guess would we
they
go
had the Edmonds brothers, they had the Watts brothers.
True. I never didn't mind I can't remember his name. That's really a bad take, but the Edmonds. What was his name? The running back,
Trey Edmonds.
Trey Edmonds, that's right. I didn't mind him as a running back. He was a big bulldozer. He had the one big 47-yard run. I thought was fun to watch. Okay, what are your thoughts then? Bringing in Tremaine? Is it Tremaine?
Tremaine, man,
would he come in to be a middle linebacker?
Dude. So apparently, I would love for him and Miles Jack to be our middle linebackers. I think that would be dynamic. He's a free agent this year. Apparently, the Buffalo Bills fans treat Tremaine Edmonds kind of similar to the way the Steelers fans used to treat Terrell Edmonds, with a little bit of harsh criticism for whatever reason. So, but I think he's a fantastic middle linebacker. He's extremely fast, abnormally large. He's a freak athlete. I think he would do fantastic in this defense, especially when you have the likes of Minka Fitzpatrick behind him and TJ Watt in front of him. It'd be crazy, dude.
So
It would be crazy.
The two stars in the offseason that might come to the defense could be Tremaine Edmonds and also JJ Watt. Imagine if JJ Watt was there too. Just have them all in there. Have all the brothers.
It's a family reunion, bro. If that ends up happening, like,
is there a possibility though? Like I have heard some theories about that maybe happening where they go and get Tremaine and then plays with his brother. Of course, they sign I think Edmonds or our Edmonds, and now I've forgotten his name, Terrell Edmonds is on the one year contract, right? So they go and sign him for a deal and then bring in his brother. That to me would just be like Pittsburgh Steelers football, wouldn't it? It'd just be, and Kazi would be in there too. Still, hopefully, he'd be still in there. But I think, yeah, if you have like Terrell and maybe Devin Bush is out, see you later, mate. Thanks for your time. Move on from you. We have Terrell Edmonds and Miles Jack. That would be pretty cool duo, wouldn't it?
I think so, dude. I think that would be a defense. That would be a fun defense to watch, man. I really do think. I mean, you got a guy at almost every position there. I think especially if they were to get, somebody like Joey Porter on the outside as a cornerback. Like, this would definitely be a championship defense that could, propel this team into contention very quickly.
Does Minka have a brother?
I don't know, but if he does, the Steelers are scouting him.
Alrighty. So the other scores we had here was 24-16. I like that one. That's a win by 8. That's a fun game too. Men Steel has a 27-16. That's fantastic. That'd be good to see. A lot of Steelers. So I think Steelers can win this game. Black and Gold 16-10. Noah says 100-0. That'd be insane. The only team who would do that would be the Dallas Cowboys because they don't care about the other team's feelings, I guess, or the right way to play the game. They just didn't stop the other day, did they? Did you see that game with the Cowboys the other day? They didn't stop. Man. They just kept going. They just kept putting points on. They're already up by like 20 or 28 points. They just kept going and going and going.
I like when teams do that because what they does is they put their plays out there for the other teams to scout, and so they're just hurting themselves. And I'm not a Cowboy fan whatsoever. So
fair enough. But they had I think an interception a few times in a row, a fumble for a return. That one I don't mind. Like seeing a fumble return for a TD, that's fine. It's all part of the game. But like running the game, I guess when you give them a short field too, then what else you meant to do? You meant to score. The other team's got to stop them, right? The other team's got to stop them. Nolan says here, Pickens 2 TDs, 110 yards. That'd be fantastic. Minka pick 6. That'd be great to see. G'day, Ali. What's going on? The party did start with We're almost at the end of the party. The party's coming to a close. Any other scores in here? Otherwise, we might get out of here. But you're pretty excited, right? Oh, Brian Brown says Joey Porter Jr. would be lockdown corner with attitude, right? Oh, yeah. Because his father's got a, it's a bit like Debo Harrison. When's Debo Harrison's kids getting in the game? They're
dude, I think they're already retiring. How old Debo is. I think his kids are like 30 also, dude. I mean, Debo's like 50. He played, and Debo was the first basically TB12 to play until his 40s or whatever, at a much difficult position.
I think his kids are going into high school right now or getting out of high school. But he's always said like he didn't want his kids to play football, but they he's always said whatever you want to do. But imagine if like his mentality. I can see it with Peasy as well, with his son, of course. Teaching him the right ways kind of style would be fantastic. If that happens, man, it's going to be a great offseason, but it's not over yet. No more scores. Everyone's all chitter-chatting and the Cowboys stink. All right, Daniel, mate, thank you for coming on, or, thank you for doing the Unofficial Steelers podcast. And on this side of Steeler Nation Australia, I believe it's going to your channel next instead of the Steelers. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Be here on Tuesday. We'll be talking about this game and the Steelers' victory.
Ooh.
I'm putting it down right now, guaranteeing it. Steelers win this game.
I actually I'm going to guarantee it too. I think the Steelers have a good chance to win this game. I think they're the better team. I think if they can take care of Tyler Huntley, get him in some bad positions to throw football and picks. And this is we're back at home, right? We're back at home. I think we can do it. But thanks, Daniel, mate. Thanks, guys, for joining Steeler Nation Australia and the Unofficial Steelers podcast. It was fantastic. It was great to see you guys. And enjoy the game, guys. Have some beers, have some pizza, have some food, some pork, pulled pork sandwiches. Just enjoy the game, enjoy the progress of the offense, and enjoy the defense smashing the Ratbirds. It's a fun game, man. It's one of the best rivalries in all of sports. We'll see you guys later.
Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host from In Hindsight, Nathan Heights. From Steelers Nation Australia, Mark Davison. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J.